Welcome. Yeah, so my name is Sonja Shradha Devi, and here I am in my home in Bali. And so some of us are joining us now, and some of us are going to be looking at this later on. And so wherever you are, whoever you are, welcome to this space. And me and my amazing sister Shelly, soul sister, are going to be sharing with you really authentically and deeply, because basically that's what we do. We don't know how to talk to talk superficial bullshit. That's not one of the things that
we're our strong suit.
No, we're more into dissecting reality, like we vigilantly. So that's what we're going to be doing, and we're going to be talking on what I feel to be pretty juicy subjects, which are intimacy, and integrity, and evolution. So we're going to be seeing like where is the cross section, all those things. But more than anything, like what is that in everyday life? Like how do we live that? Like we're not talking conceptual stuff with you. We're talking about like what we're actually living in our bones, in our blood, on an everyday level. And we're going to share the insights that we have from working in the field of conscious relationship. I am a sensual empowerment coach and a tantra teacher and a writer. And Shelly would you like to introduce yourself, Shelly?
Sure. Hey, everyone. So sweet. I like you got the little mic right here. I'm Shelly Bullard. And how would I introduce myself? Well, the titles I use are love coach, spiritual teacher. I'm also a marriage and family therapist. But I think more than any of that, I'm a woman.
In a body.
In a body.
A juicy body.
Who relates and who is interested in exploring relationships and exploring what's real. And the combination of those two things is what's most interesting to me.
Yeah.
What's most real, and in relationships in particular, what's most real?
Yeah.
How do we find that out? How do we locate that in ourselves and with others? That's really that's my passion. That's what I study. That's what I live.
Yeah. And what I love about you is that you like me, it's like a full-time job. It's a full-time job of really tuning so deeply into what there is, and not bypassing, like not into spiritual kind of ideas and concepts of enlightenment, but like how to actually live completely, fully in this, in our case, feminine body. And if you've seen us on the dance floor, you know that our bodies are pretty like activated bodies. And so how does our spirituality and our thirst for truth like translate into our relationship with our body, and what does that look like in relationships? And then we're going to be weaving that into the importance of integrity, which is one of my favorite words, especially at the moment. And so we're going to be weaving that in as well, like what is integrity, why is it so important, how do we move into that, and how do we invite the sense of integrity and deep truth into our relationships, both with ourselves, everybody that we meet. So that's the terrain that we're going to be exploring today, and we're going to be like just going for it for an hour. I don't know about for you guys, but it's been an intense time for me. I've been completely wiped out in the last week. I've cried so many tears. I was just crying an hour ago, and it's been raw, it's been intense, but at the same time I'm really feeling what it is to live this quest of intimacy and integrity and evolution, like living that like really, and then feeling the fruits of that. And also we're really interested to explore more what that means. Yeah, so just one more time, I just want to say welcome to everyone watching now, and also to all of you who are going to watch this at a later date. We're really excited and happy to share our truth and our experience with you. The reasons I put on these webinars is because the kind of conversations that I'm having with people like Shelly are so incredible. And I mean, I go away from our conversations so full of energy and inspiration. We actually had a point where we thought like we can have to only meet in the day. It's like if we go home at night, we can't sleep and we're just up. So, you know, like there's a lot of energy that comes from these kinds of conversations. And, you know, on one level, I think it's because our bodies are very, very activated, very open, and we're really living this inquiry. Another element of it is that somehow quite sexual. And I think it's quite interesting how can something be so sexual when it doesn't necessarily involve sex? So this is another element of this conversation. Like, how can you have a sexual relationship with God? Like, what does that mean? Like, what does that look like? How does that feel?
So intimacy, with all of life,
with all of
making
life.
love.
Yeah, without necessarily it looking like sex.
I think sometimes it looks like sex.
And sometimes it looks like sex, and hallelujah. But at the same time, like even if it doesn't, there's something going on. So like
what is that?
Yeah, that's what I'm really interested in expressing, because this is not something that's necessarily brought up it's like we're not really modeled that much of that. We're modeled sexy, and we're modeled sex, and we're and sexual with a goal, with orientation, but we're not really necessarily showed an example of sexual, which is just bubbling, sexy, connection to the divine, like
surrender, abandon, self-abandon, energy moving, orgasmic,
uncaused orgasm. You know, it's not because something's been done to you, but because actually, like, you're tuning into your body, and it's like, oh whoa, oh wow, oh, this is what life is doing in my body now. And so this is what we're talking about. So do
you think that's can I just ask you a question?
Please.
Do you think it's intense for people to experience that in us and in themselves? Like, how do people feel about that? Because I was like, wow, I wonder what that's like for people to hear or experience. I always wonder my impact on people in that way. Like, and I receive sometimes the feedback that I'm sexy or sensual, and I'm curious. There's part of me that wonders, like, wow, how does that feel uncomfortable for people, or does it feel good? Or I'm sure there's many different responses, but I'm just I don't know.
I'd love to respond what I feel to that. And I would say that, like, when I was a teenager, I would find sexy really kind of intimidating, because it would feel like they've got sexy and they've got sexual, they've got this sexual superpower, and they've got it and they've got the skills, but I don't have it. I don't have that thing. I feel like shit. So it would actually like feed my egoic identification with lack. But now these days, when I see a woman like you who's just enjoying herself so deeply, and it's so abundant, it's not like I don't see you kind of like playing games and like, you know, putting on a show. I just see you bubbling, like literally bubbling, and I'm just like whoa, can I just be next to that and catch that wave, and can I enjoy that with you? And so I feel like actually it's a really great question, because it really touches on something which I feel is this like sacred sexual essence, is something which is inspiring, it's giving, it's abundant, it's not about being good enough, it's not about looking good in a certain kind of way,
it's not competitive,
it's not goal orientated,
it's
and that's a really different paradigm of sexuality than what we see in our culture, basically. And so what is a sexual relationship with God, Shelly?
At first I can't use words, right? Because I just have to feel what that is in the words. But I know it through feeling. What is a sexual? It's union. It's union with myself. Union with what feels like truth. Union with what is. So even going even deeper, what is that? That's a surrender into what is, and seeing and feeling like the inherent beauty that exists in all.
And in my experience, that's actually accessed through my body.
Yeah. Because it feels, for me, there's a sense of deep resonance. I start making the noises.
Oh.
I start making those orgasmic noises. It's something I do all the time, and it's not intentional, but it's from the, and sometimes the noises I find help me actually get into the union. It's like a way for me to move into resonance. But it's a felt experience of, I'm there. That's what sex is, like union, oneness. I mean, it can be like actual physical sex. That can be the practice. Yeah. Is that, what were you going to say?
I would say, like, and then again, it's like, there's so many different levels to this. In essence, sexual union would be in something where two separate souls come together to merge into a sea of experience with each other, which is where it's not separate. We're basically out of the mind. And so, and then taking that back into the individual experience, I think that's a kind of a key thing, because I want to really break this down to like really like super simple, you know. So when there's the mind, and when there's the idea of what should be, then there's no access to this experience. Right. And it's the same thing, same thing in lovemaking. When you're thinking, oh, should I do that, or is that good enough, or what does he think about, or like that access, that door into that union isn't there. Yeah. So I feel it's like it's great to. I'd love to talk about what separates, because like in my understanding of my own experience and what I see when I see a woman like you, I see that when presence, like full abandoned presence and attention, loving attention, is inside the body, then there's a sense of like connection to self that then kind of merges into a very vast experience with all that is, which then, and then this dance of evolution begins. This is where it's like a really like mysterious, but also I understand that as evolution, that like life wants to do this dance, and if we are here fully available to really be with that lovingly, openly and lovingly, that's actually available. So actually it's great news that that's available. And so for me, I would say that's what a sexual relationship with God is. Well, yeah,
it like, if you were to distill it, what is it? Like, if you were to distill what you just said, like, is it, what would that be? Like,
I would actually say it's like actually being there for what actually really is. So rather than being caught in the energy of an old pattern or a mental story or some judgment or idea about what is going on, when I'm actually like in my physical, like deeply in my physical sensations in a way that is moment to moment, then I find myself, it becomes this experience of bubbling life force, which is quite sexual in a way that is not the culturally sanctioned idea of sexual necessarily, but it's bubbling, it's alive. Like for me, that feels it at moments it looks really sexual. At other times, it's sweet. It has different manifestations. So yeah, I know for myself that only became available once I cleared a lot of bullshit, like a lot of stuff that I was holding in my body and attitudes in my mind. So once that a lot of that clearing out, then that became available. So that's my experience. And then when I look at you and I feel you, because I can when I'm with you, I feel like I can almost be inside your body, you know, like I can almost feel your cells like bubbling. You know? Like there's times I go in front of her on the dance floor and just like just give it to me, you know. And so,
can we dance tomorrow?
We probably should, so that's a little bit about my experience of what it is. I'd love to hear about, you know, how, you know, you probably didn't pop out of the womb like this,
right?
Like the Shelly that you are.
Yeah.
You know, what challenges have you found on your path of being a sexually activated and spiritual woman?
Right. Okay. Beautiful. Well, the two processes that come to mind are awakening and embodiment. And so awakening, my process of awakening happened through and continues to happen through an awareness of not being separate from anything, like an awareness of my true nature. And again, like the words can be very hard. Our minds don't understand this, but it's a felt sense of I'm not just this body, and I'm not just Shelly, but I'm this essence that is very hard for us to describe. We can call it spirit, we can call it oneness, we can call it the absolute.
What does that feel like?
That's what feels orgasmic.
Okay.
That's what, but it's not like it's a whole system experience of bliss.
And does it always feel like bliss though? Because sometimes it can feel pretty painful as well. Even if there's can we talk about a bit more about that, like the challenges?
The challenges of reaching this place?
Yeah.
Well, essentially,
what
what prevents it is the mind and the stories. So basically, I'm either dropped into this truth that I am all is me, and from that place I experience orgasmic bliss. That is making love with God. That is being God. That is making love with life, whatever we want to call that. And what takes me out of that is separation. And separation, my experience is it's identification with being not complete as I am. So stories about myself that it could be like that I'm not good enough, or that I'm not being met, or this story about my partner, he's not showing up the way I want him to, whatever that is, that causes me, it's another felt sense in the body, but it's a felt sense of something's wrong. Something's off.
Yeah.
Something's not right. So that experience, that story, and that buy-in create, again, that body sensation of like contraction and something's off. And that I don't know if this is answering your question, but that's essentially like the two. I'm either in that.
Yeah.
It's like heaven or hell.
Yeah.
I'm in hell,
completely.
Which is I'm separate and something's effed up. Heaven is I'm at one with myself and everything else.
Whatever that looks like right now.
Whatever that looks like. That could even be something that's effed up. But if I'm okay, if I'm not okay with it, but if I'm allowing the experience to be as it is, that can even be blissful too.
Yeah.
So it's not that it has to be, it's not like good experiences, bad experiences. It's actually like, am I attuned to the truth that I'm actually always complete. I'm always okay. I'm always in union, because that's what we all are. So it's a deep knowing of that.
Yeah. And so what happens when when a story comes and it feels really believable, and the sense of contraction in the body is so prominent, it's taking up all of your attention, and it feels heavy, and you can't and it feels almost like it's taking up all the space.
Yeah.
So what happens when that happens for you?
I usually totally go into it. I forget. I forget the truth. And I don't know how long I forget for, to be honest. Like, it's getting shorter and shorter, the amount of time that I forget. But sometimes I'll remember, like, I know the real truth, but I'll be like, fuck it, I'm gonna fucking fight right now.
But don't you think that's also somehow necessary? Like, you know, like, and this is where I feel evolution coming in, and also this is also where the embodiment comes in as well. I mean, I'm just studying this from my own experience of being in my own body, and studying it so intensely, is that it seems that sometimes these you could say detours actually really need to happen. Like, it's not a detour. It has to. It's almost like something is like burning out of the energy system, so that alignment is on the other side of it. You're like, whoa, yeah, I'm more here than I've ever been. Yeah,
it's the evolution process is how I experience
Can
it
you
as
talk
well.
about that?
So so the evolution process, basically, and this is also what I call, like, evolution and embodiment really are kind of the same process for me, which is like what is embodiment to me is the experience of oneness, like knowing myself as that oneness. And the more embodied I become, the more I experience myself as that oneness. But there is an evolution process into that remembering until eventually I won't ever forget. I'll never forget.
And it does sort of seem like a part of, like, the more you're on this path, where it feels like you go from, like, kind of permanent forgetting to partial forgetting, and there's a part that gets it the whole time. And, like, this is what I've been noticing for myself in this week. I've been completely in it. I've been like, oh my God, I can't believe how in it I am. But some part of me is aware.
The witness.
The witness is
there.
It
doesn't leave.
It doesn't leave. Exactly. And yet the separation is pretty damn believable in those moments.
Right. The way I feel this is like, it's like the karmic energy. And I know I'm using words that may not, again, the mind might not understand, but it's like there's an energetic momentum of a particular patterning. And it can be strong, not only in our own physical bodies, but in the collective, to operate in a particular way in relationships or whatever. And so the witness may still be there, but, like, the momentum to move into the trigger, to move into the separation, to move into the story is so strong that it keeps happening. But my experience of my evolution is that as long as I'm devoted to that witness, and
how do you just stay devoted to the witness? Just through
presence,
being there, just there.
Awareness. It's just like, and it's really, it starts with being present to, it's easier to be present to the witness, or to know the witness is there when we're feeling good. So when you feel good, you can feel your presence, you can feel your awareness, you can feel the oneness, you can feel all those things, and that's easy. And then the harder part is practicing experiencing the witness when we are in turmoil.
Because sorry to cut in, generally, because it's so uncomfortable, that the mind really wants to, like, kind of take away from the actual experience into some kind of distraction kind of energy. And that's what I see. It's like, and so the distraction is actually what I find is if I actually really stay fully with the experience through all the waves of all the stuff that is going on, then somehow it will move into clarity. But what I've been noticing in the last week, I'm interested to hear what other people last week, because it was so intense. In the last week, like, I really noticed, like, how strong the forgetting is, and in a way that it was like, it was more intense than ever before. It almost felt like, you know,
what was
that the forgetting, like the identification with the old story. And so what I'm interested in is like how I see from my own experience is that you can actually get to the point where your connection to presence and your presence basically is so strong, but then this extra big wave can come along and it's more full on than ever before. And I truly believe, and let's see what happens next week, as the clarity comes more and more, like I truly believe that somehow that's part of, like, it's a good sign, in fact, like it comes up like with an extra big wave, and so it comes up so more believable than ever. But there's that, because that spark of awareness, it's like that the firelight like stays there the whole time, that somehow that burns up on an even more fundamental level. So this is what I suppose what I'm pointing to is like how even if we get to a point where like life becomes much more easeful and connection is a lot more accessible, that like actually life can get a whole lot fucking messier as well. And actually for some reason that's kind of seems to be evolution.
I've experienced that, and I've heard other people talk about people like us talk about that. Like I heard one of our friends say once, he was like, damn, if I knew awakening was going to be like this, like maybe I wouldn't have wanted to do it. You know, there is a little bit of that fantasy that like it means everything's going to be good. Like if I awaken, or if I'm spiritual, or that everything's going to be good. But the truth is, like, once you, and that is true. Like the good is good.
Oh, it's so good.
The good is good. The good is orgasm.
Yeah, that is like constant uncaused orgasm.
It's
just
orgasm.
Like walking down the street and you're like, oh, you're just like actually just breathing can be just like, oh, you know. And that's what was my experience earlier on this year. I would just lie around in my hammock, just like unbelievable sensations in my body caused by nothing.
Yes, totally.
And then, you know, and then last week, like, God, the misery and depression, like more than ever before. And but somehow feeling so deeply and experiencing that this is part of the evolution.
I think you're right, that it is a burning process. That's how it's felt to me, either burning or cleansing. That the way I conceptualize it, if we want to call it that, is that like everything, once you commit to oneness, then oneness is like, all right, let's do this. It's like, oh yeah, you want this? All right, let's do it.
With this one
let's
as well?
do it. Yeah, exactly. Then it's like, oh, boom, like let's take this thing all the way up to and everything, you'll be challenged in every area of your life to know the truth of who you are, which
what
is
does that mean,
oneness.
to know the truth of who you are?
Well, it's not a mental knowing, it's that physical body knowing that, like, that I'm never separate from, I'm never separate, I'm never in division. I'm never needing to struggle.
In my experience, it's like there's nothing wrong.
There's nothing wrong. That's it.
Yeah.
There's
Because it's like
nothing
it's still
wrong.
like it's still
There's nothing wrong.
It can feel so
That's true.
bad.
That's true.
But if there's an idea that something's wrong,
yes, that's it.
That's the thing that just almost like stifles it. That's where separation comes in.
That's it.
So there can be extreme discomfort, but still like the sense of oneness at the same time. And in my experience, it's almost painfully beautiful. You know, and then
wow, yeah, when you can feel. See, you're
life.
Really good at this.
Then
at the feeling the physical sense. That's part of it. That's probably a tip we should give. That like something that both you and I have been practicing over the past year, 6 months, strongly, is that to move through these waves of strong discomfort, of separation, of pain, of any of it, if you bring your awareness to the physical sensation of the body, where that hurt is felt, if you move out of the story and into the body and just bring your presence to it
and be there,
and not trying to change it, not trying to get it to be different, and you'll go back in your mind, but you got to go back down, feel it. Where is it? Be with it. It like
Yeah, sooner or later
moves.
it will burn up.
Mhm.
And what I'm finding is when it's particularly bad, another tip is speak to a sister or a brother,
Mhm.
basically like a close friend. So
Mhm.
like, the last week I was so deeply in my separation, I'm not loved story at moments that I didn't want to go into it because I thought that I'd be there forever. Basically. So it was a thought around it. It was a thought that was around it that was blocking me from being in it. And when I'm truly in it, it can burn up. But if I'm hovering at the top of it because I'm afraid of it,
that's what a lot of people do.
Yeah,
Because they're scared. Because we don't want to feel.
Yeah.
We don't want to feel
you
it.
feel
Of
like
course.
you're going into the black hole. You're going to drown forever.
Yeah, you don't.
But you're not. You're only going to be there for a short period of time, and then you're going to feel better than ever before.
Yeah.
But and I know that myself, and yet still in this last week, like with what came up, I also found myself hovering and not wanting to feel that particular flavor that was so scary to me, because I thought that would become my whole reality forever, and so a misconception.
Yeah.
And so having someone, speaking to somebody who said, and a couple of times I was told, like, I think maybe you just need to feel it. It's so funny because like I'm the one who like teaches people to do that shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, good idea. But it's like, because our own egoic function is so powerfully built to block ourselves off from evolution, actually, like from surrender and from connection. Sometimes it really involves another person who isn't judging us to give us that energy of non-judgment and compassion, to be like, oh, okay, maybe I can just go home and sit with this.
Oh yeah.
And then, the time that happened 2 days ago, I only had to feel it for about 20 minutes, because once I was there, it already started shifting and just dissolving in rapid speed. But as I hovered and resisted and freaked out, the transformation didn't happen.
Yeah, and the hovering is staying in separation.
Yeah.
And so like what I teach in my courses, and a lot of what I teach is around like healing these wounds. And if you bring your presence to it, if you bring your awareness to this part of you that is in pain, what are you doing? You're creating union. You're saying, I'm here with you.
Yeah, you're giving it space in a way. Like in a way, like awareness is like this space.
There's space for
that stuff to happen.
Yeah, to me, and it feels like sometimes it can feel like talking to my little girl who holds these wounds, and it's like, hi, sweetie, like you're here, you feel this way. I'm right here with you. I don't need you to change. That's the wound came from someone not being present with it. Like essentially that's where it came from. And so if we bring it's like reparenting ourselves, like, hey, I'm here with you. It doesn't even have to be talking to your inner child. It could just be talking to yourself, like, I am here with you.
I feel this.
I feel this.
I
hold you. I love you. You can feel, I feel that. Exactly. I feel this.
I feel this. Yeah, acceptance, like that
I'm
balm of
here
acceptance.
In this. Yes.
Totally. There's so much power in that. And like
so healing.
And what's great about this is, I find, is like, what I'm intrigued by is that all of this is happening already. Like, we're not making evolution happen. We're not making transformation happen. We're not trying to dissolve our egos so that we can bask in oneness and feel sexual bliss. This movement is naturally going towards that.
Yeah,
with its own kind of intelligence.
Yes. You can't orchestrate it. Life orchestrates it.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah, in its own way.
And knowing that is very helpful.
Yeah.
That, like, again, it's back to it's brilliant. Something's wrong. Like, actually, we can't attract in something that's wrong. It may not feel good. It may not feel good, but it's serving our evolution into knowing the truth.
Yeah.
Like nothing can show up. Nothing can show up that isn't in alignment with something we are believing. So we're either believing that we are separate or in oneness. We can say that. And everything that shows up is in service as knowing who we are.
And I like the idea of feeling like life is like gently showing us that, you know, so when the shit's going down, life is gently showing, look, there's a part of you that still doesn't feel loved. Showing to you, we're showing that to you right now, compassionately, to show you that that's what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Here's the part.
Here she is, and you can love her right here.
Yeah,
You can love her,
and it's okay. And in that way, the love is essentially transforming. And I love to weave this right into relationships and conscious relationship. And how does this all happen with another human being? Because that's where it really gets really, really interesting, I find. Because I find that everything that we're talking about, like this whole wave of transformation and the kind of the journey that we go on of the stuff coming up and the separation and then the dissolving, that actually happens within conscious relationship. And it can feel a little bit more complicated in a way because it's two people's stuff which are rebounding off each other. So rather than life reflecting our shit to us, we've got another human being who's not God. God also has their stuff, and their stuff and our stuff is
perfect match to really make us feel like shit.
To really push our buttons. Isn't that amazing?
It's really gorgeous,
and
isn't it?
Isn't it interesting how like we really want conscious relationship when really
people are into it? They want to attract it.
Yeah, really, like in essence, it's just like it's like a trigger zone. It's just like, you know, it's working when actually life is like really brought you the perfect combination to show you your crap.
Yeah, I know.
Isn't that interesting? And so why are conscious relationships so amazing? Why do we want them so much when actually like there's they're kind of tailor-made to trigger the fuck out of us? It's a beautiful question.
Well, there's nature taking, like there's some wisdom. I don't really know the answer to that question, but what my sense is, like, there's a wisdom, and it's the wisdom of evolution that is saying, yeah, this is going to take you to your next place. Like, there's a wisdom. So the fantasy, it depends what part is wanting the conscious relationship. There's the fantasy that a conscious relationship is going to be a relationship with God in which I experience oneness all the time.
And it's all going to be perfect?
Yeah. Don't you think people hold that fantasy? Well, maybe, I don't know.
I think a part of me does.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're right. Actually, I think there might be a part of me that holds that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fantasy.
Yeah.
That it's going to be perfect.
Well, I mean, I think it's, you know, if I feel into this part of me, it's also the part of me that knows that, like, the essence that comes from all that stuff is the essence of truth and love that I crave, that I deeply, deeply crave for.
Wait, can you say that again?
So some part of me is aware that the essence that gets birthed from all that kind of work, kind of stuff that plays out between, and the kind of that the stuff that gets ground up, and then the essence that gets kind of birthed from there is the essence of love and connect I deeply, deeply crave.
Yeah.
Experience of conscious relationship, that's true.
Yeah.
And
it's like real deal evolution.
It's real deal
it's
evolution.
Like real deal. Like,
yeah.
You want to get into the dirt, and you want to get in. It's like dirt, dirt, and
you're like,
bliss.
Give it to me.
Yeah.
Fucking give me the whole deal.
Yeah.
And it does, like, in terms of like what I find it does to your energy system, is it actually does bring it to that next level of connection, but at the same time it's so intense and painful in a way. Like,
yeah, it's really hard.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose.
It's the way it feels to me is like all the parts in the nooks and crannies, all those parts that still are buying into separation, all those really deeply ingrained beliefs that are hard to access any other way, those get accessed in relationship. And they're they're just the ones that have the most hold on me.
Yeah.
They're like really the ones, they're the hardest to clear, and they're deep. But there's no way to access them except the intimate relationship with a partner for me. Like I know I can feel that they're the only way to get to them is relationship with a partner.
Absolutely.
And it's like the wisdom of the wisdom that is already totally bought in is the wrong word, that is already signed up for evolution, like real deal, full on, is like, all right, let's get in a relationship.
Yep.
It knows to put me in a relationship so I can, it's like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of like I went through so much training before I was ready to actually even go there, so I could navigate somehow what, like, the depths of what comes up in that. Yeah, I mean, there was like moments where I was looking into my lover's eyes in the last week when I've just been like, wow, it takes so much courage to do this. It takes so much courage to show up in a relationship with all your deepest, darkest shit coming up to be seen by another person. It takes so much courage.
It does.
Yeah, it really, really does.
It really does.
Yeah.
I was just feeling it does, and then what I felt inside was like, and I'm in.
Yeah,
for that.
I'm
in for that.
Exactly.
Because there isn't anything else.
Yeah.
There isn't.
It gets to a point where like distraction from the truth is just not an option. And like,
it's not we know too much. Like, what am I gonna do?
Yeah. Like,
what am I, like, hang out by the pool? Like, it's just, what am I gonna do? There's no other options, you know? It's like, what am I gonna do?
Yeah. And absolutely. And I'm also wondering about the people who are kind of getting to the point where maybe they're like more on the brink of, like, they're not straight into absolute choicelessness, like, and they're like kind of more approaching, maybe they're a little bit newer to this. And, you know, and I particularly like to ask you this question of, like, what about the women or men who are pretty much finding themselves on the path of transformation and being conscious, and healing, and they're in a relationship with someone who isn't, or they're having difficulty attracting someone who's on the same trip? What would you say to those people?
That's really beautiful. I actually did a video about this recently. Okay, so what would I say about that?
You are the woman to ask this question.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder why.
You know, you've got good knowledge and ways of explaining this kind of thing, like the kind of misconceptions and misunderstandings around things. You're very good at breaking down the bullshit and to making it quite easily understandable. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so what for a person who is so the question is, what
advice would you give someone who is in a relationship already? Maybe you could
let's start there.
One or the other.
Okay.
In a relationship already with someone who's not on the path of evolution. They don't feel, and they're not getting met by.
Okay. Well, if you can trust that, again, it's into, gosh, I don't know what, it's so simple, but it's so brilliant to me. There's something wrong, right? So that situation can really bring up that there's something wrong with you in particular.
Not just there's something wrong, but there's something wrong with you. Yeah.
And can trust that we cannot, simply put, like, we cannot change anyone else. We can't
it doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't work like that. But what you can trust is that life does have a perfect plan for you. And if you stay committed to what is true in you, and if you stay committed to your evolution, and you stay committed to the light that you are, the truth that you know about yourself and about others, then the perfect unfoldment of that relationship will happen. That either means the partner stepping up and meeting you, or you naturally going separate ways. And that will happen. But the more we stay in that we're in just full separation. You're wrong. You're not doing it right. Like, I'm I'm doing the spiritual path and you're not. Like, we're just in such tension, such resistance, and it's going to keep us stuck in a situation that doesn't feel good. So it's really, I would say, about like trusting life. And it's also, you know, going into the relationship piece, like, we can talk about these things from a loving place with our partners. We can say, not from a blaming, like, blame is going to shut someone down. Blame is saying you are wrong. You're wrong and you're making me feel this way. And like, there's just no conversation from that place. It's hard not to talk about these things sometimes from blame. Like, it's hard for me too. Like, from more of a vulnerable place, like, I'm really desiring to be met in this space, this particular space, I'm desiring to be seen in this way. Like, here's who I am. I really want to show you that. And perhaps from that dropped in space, like, your partner will show up and be able to see you, or maybe they won't. And that's okay. That's okay too, because that's just where they're at. People can only show up with the conscious capacity that they have. We're not all at the same consciousness level. And sometimes we outgrow people. Might even be, oh, well, that's kind of a big topic. I was just thinking about, like, yeah, that's a big topic I'm not going to go into. I was thinking about, like, why people tend to tap in. We don't tend to stay with one person these days. Like, it's not like a full, maybe like it was, I don't know, years and years and years ago, where you have like one relationship and you stay and you stay and stay. We tap into different people, but I think that is a whole other like discussion. Yeah, but
which we can go into like later if that comes up.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, but I think that that answers the question. I got a little off track with that one last thought, but
no, I got it. And I think the kind of warning, like, thing to watch out for is like how tricky the mind, the ego is. And so if we find ourselves getting stuck into the moment, I think that you think like you're like sentences like you're hurting me or you are blah, 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 those sorts of storylines come up in the mind. That's like, see that as a warning sign, basically. That's like your stuff, basically.
Totally.
You know, like when you start like, it's a way that the mind will take you out of connection, basically, and keep something alive. And I think it's so beautiful, and I resonate with that so much. What you're saying about like, what can we do about that? I know what I do is what you say. I'll say, I'll wait until I'll kind of be with myself, with my process enough that it kind of like moves to the point where I'm humble, where I'm like in myself, and I'm not activated in the story, but instead of like kind of like maybe I've gone out and moved the energy and gotten really angry and gone to the anger and done the whole tour, and then just kind of like come back into more of a humble place where I'm connected to myself, where I can be really like, what's really going on here?
Yes.
And then going to my partner and you know, just saying from that humble place of, this is what I feel. This is what I'm experiencing. And I find that if I say sentences like, and I really wish that, you know, and like actually start sharing about my, you know, my hopes or my desires for what I'd like to experience from my partner, like from when this has been happening recently, I noticed that he's like, you know, he's not defended because I'm so undefended.
Oh my gosh.
I'm so gentle and soft, and I've owned all the heavy stuff and played that all out because somehow I need to, and then I'm like, oh, I'm back into this undefended place. And I'm just like, this is my experience.
Yes.
And then
oh my god.
I know, and it's so beautiful as well, because then it's like, oh, there's like this willingness. And I think in conscious relationship, like willingness is almost like one of the most magical words. You know, it's like when you stay in the realm of like willingness to keep on listening and keep on like being open to the other person's experience from an undefended place. Yeah, it's just like anything can happen in that space.
Yeah, can I add something?
Please, yeah.
I love what you're saying, and my partner says something all the time that is like I think it's exquisitely beautiful, and I think it applies to all of us. He'll say, like when we're in a place of dissonance or a place of like that separation where like I want this, you want, like you're like that separate experience, he'll remind me that like the truth is what we desire is union with each other and with all of life. And just to remember that like, even if you and your partner don't talk like that with each other yet, even if it's not, it's like the truth is you and your partner want the same thing.
And that can be a
which
fast
is
track
connection.
back to that
Yeah,
place.
it's like we want to see each other. We want like, and my partner actually also reminds me, because sometimes I can go into like, you're not meeting me or you're not seeing me. And the real truth is he wants to. It's not like he doesn't want to see me. He wants to see me. He wants to meet me. You know, it's a particular type of man, but that is real for him. Like, he's like, do you think I just don't want to? Like, of course he wants to. He wants that same thing.
Yeah.
So going back to that, I'm finding now in my relationship, like going back to that awareness that like, wait, we want the same thing. How do we meet there is really healing and beautiful.
Yeah, it's the place where you're both willing
Yes.
to go past your ideas on what things are and your opinions or your emotions, and be like, oh, what's going on here? What's this shared field that we're navigating together? So it's like, in a way, like maybe the main goal of conscious relationship is to stay there, to stay in the shared field where it's like, okay, look what's going on. Okay, and now there's a huge wave of this, and now there's that, and where we want the same thing, which is to keep on finding the truth within this, rather than you know, feeling like we got the trophy or got our idea of what we want. People who are wanting to attract in someone who's on the conscious path, like I've got a few things to say about that, but I'd like to ask you first, like what advice would you give to someone who wants to attract in someone who's able to meet them in that way?
Yeah, well, it starts with us meeting ourselves. Like someone is gonna meet you at the depth that someone can only meet you at the depth at which you meet yourself. So this goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the call, which is how aware can you be with yourself? How present can you be with yourself through the beauty, the bliss, the challenge, the pain? How much do you stay with yourself? Because if you can't stay with yourself, and sometimes this is what happens, we can't stay with ourselves and then we crave someone else to do that job for us. But it's like,
or a substance or anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Something else to distract us away from that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you've probably experienced this. I've experienced like the level of presence in the men that I attract in has just gone up and up and up and up and up and up and up. And that's because of and it's very clear that that's directly linked to the level of presence I have with myself. Yeah. So if you want a conscious partner, you gotta be conscious. You gotta be conscious.
Yeah, and that's a work in progress.
Yeah, it's a process.
Yeah, definitely.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, sure.
And then the other thing is, again, referring back to something else we talked about, whereas remembering that life is going to give us everything to serve our evolution. And so again, sometimes the mind can make up a story about what a conscious relationship is, and that means it's smooth all the time. Relationships should have union. It should be smooth. It also means you're going to have to face every part of you that still is buying into separation. And that's what like a true conscious relationship is, serving our evolution into consciousness. It does that by pulling up all the stuff that is not conscious. And so just knowing that that's what a conscious relationship is, and that life will bring that to us naturally.
Yeah. And also in its own time, you know, I'd say that I spent years not attracting anyone while I was going through a deep reconfiguration that allowed me to then start meeting conscious men. And part of my journey was also to look at the way that I was kind of trying to manipulate life to have a relationship or an experience with somebody, rather than actually just feeling into what the energy wanted to do. And yeah, so that's been a practice of mine, to see like kind of the stories that I would create. I'd see someone, I'd be attracted to them, and then my mind would go about that person. And I noticed that wasn't truth. I noticed it was a story, and that it wasn't, it was a mind fuck basically. And so part of my journey was also to stop looking outside and looking around. And that was hard, because there was a few years where I was looking around all the time. But how the process went was that, you know, as my relationship to myself deepened and deepened, and my respect for truth and life got just so full-bodied and full on all the time, that I got to really like trust. Like I stopped looking out, because I'd look out and I'd notice like, it's bullshit. Like, you know, like this is like,
it's not out there.
That guy's not attracted to you. To you then, because he's not attracted to you. And then, you know, so I think it takes a lot of trust. Like in my experience, it's actually taken a lot of trust to allow life to bring what I really, really need on the, like, not necessarily in the time frame that I would have I hoped.
Yeah. And if you are single and desiring a relationship to come in, like the best thing you can do is just keep meeting yourself in relationship. Like cultivate that relationship, whether you want to call it relationship with God, relationship with yourself, relationship with truth, whatever we call it. Like that's the way. And if you are in that and you are trusting, then it will come.
And
it wants to come. It wants to. It's like we're saying, like,
it's a
relationship
evolution.
serves evolution, and we are here to evolve into, it's what is wanted. So no one is like doomed or destined to not have that. Like if it's a desire, it's yours. Just trust and stay in relationship with yourself.
Beautiful. And what that looks like for me, staying in relationship to myself, is noticing a moment that I come out of my actual experience, like my physical experience, like my energetic experience, and start wanting something outside. Like start going into like an idea of what I want, and go into, like, say, you could say story. So present moment experience, when that's being with that's cultivating a relationship to myself. When like something comes up and I'm like, oh, okay, you know, just take the time to spend time with myself, to feel what's going on, and explore it, go on that way, look what it's telling me, and what you know, the information that life is giving me. So in a way, it's like being available to the information that life is giving me. And then being
in union with that.
Being with that. And then whenever life is just in its wisdom has decided that you need someone to take you to the next level of your evolution and your crap, then life brings that person. You know, and like I just want to say to anyone who's doubting that, I want to say, you know, we can both say from our experience that happens, and when it does, it's undeniable. It's, you don't even get a choice with those guys or women. You know, it's like you just know this person has got something for you. Something's going to go on with them. You don't need to manipulate, you know, you don't have to doubt. It's like, you know, like there's something going to go on, and you don't know what that's going to look like. And so Shelly right now is in like a committed relationship. I'm in a situation where in 1 hour after the call, my lover is leaving me and going away for maybe forever. So, and that's what life wants me to deal with right now. Like life is asking me to like love someone so much that I can say, okay, I hear that your soul's truth is to go and explore the world and do your thing. And that's, you know, ouch. And I want you to stay here and to keep on experiencing this. But like, I have to kind of get to the point where I'm like, okay, like So
this is what it is. Yeah.
I'm in relationship. This is what life is bringing to me, and this is what life, and then therefore it's what's right for me.
Yes.
Like, even though the mind cannot understand that.
Yes. And back to the beginning of the call, like orgasm comes from like what you're doing, which is saying like, okay, this may not be the plan that my mind wants. This may not be ideal. This may hurt, but this is here. And because it is here, I am with it. I am with it. Suffering comes from us not being with it. When we resist it, when we don't want, when we want to push against it, when we want to like do anything we can to not feel it. But this is it. And there is bliss in that, in that deep acceptance of what is, even if it's like acceptance in loss, in grief,
and misery and depression, and all that stuff. And I feel like from my experiences, like you go through that and it dissolves into this beautiful deep acceptance and availability to so much more. Just so much more. And so in that way, I really bow down to the wisdom of life and conscious, like the way that it's designed, because it's incredibly intelligent in knowing the exact combination of experience that's needed to crack us open. I think the beautiful thing is when we realize that being cracked open is not necessarily what we think it looks like. And it could be us being just completely alone and just so quietly happy in ourselves. And then other times it's like, you're in a committed relationship and then that brings its own feast of challenges.
Yes, exactly. And that this is kind of a tricky statement, but there's always more. Like the ego wants to say there's always more, and the more is out there and I need to go somewhere else. But that's not what I'm saying. There's always more in the sense that the way I hold that, there's always room for me to be more love, like more in truth, more in realness, more in what I am. There's always room for me to be in that more. In that. It doesn't matter if I'm in relationship, not in relationship. Like love and union exists where I'm at, if I choose to be there.
And by surrendering, like with totality, to the whole myriad of experience that life is presenting us, both in and outside of relationships, that then this just naturally moves towards deeper levels of that surrender. And then, like, surrender isn't a word; it's an actual it's actually all completely okay. Even though my lover's about to leave in an hour and it's the last thing I wanted to happen. Like actually, like that's what life wants, and I want what life wants. And I can feel that in my body. Like that feels right. That feels like that feels like love.
Yes. And also another little piece about this is like if we don't be with what is right here in this moment, then like we miss it. And I think part of the beauty of life is that there's so many different expressions that come through in a lifetime. Like sometimes we're single, sometimes we're partnered, sometimes we're happy, sometimes we're sad, sometimes we're in Bali, sometimes we're somewhere else. Like there's so many
good example.
There's so many spaces and embodiments to be in. And if we're always trying to get somewhere else, then we never get to enjoy what is right here. And each of them have beauty. Each space has beauty. Saying goodbye has beauty. Saying hello has beauty. Like all of them have beauty. We may have preferences towards, of course, but like if you're with what is, you get to see the innate beauty of this moment. You don't want to miss this moment. You don't want to miss this moment because it's just now.
And that's intimacy.
Oh, that's intimacy.
That's intimacy. Yeah, because it's like
that
there's no separation
right there.
And whether another human being is in there with you or not, that's intimacy.
That's the good stuff.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's so good. Yeah, you gotta,
Yeah,
there's a lot that needs to be met before you can feel the ease of that. But that's definitely the essence of what it's all about, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And so we've talked a little bit about intimacy, and I'd love to move on into integrity. Like, I feel
we skipped that one.
we've got some stuff to say about integrity. Like, evolution is like weaving through everything that we're sharing about. Like, evolution is actually kind of like what is happening, like why this is all happening, because it's actually taking us on this track towards some kind of deepening, opening, or just, awakening into more intimacy with truth. So that's kind of feel like the evolution theme is kind of like weaves through everything that we're talking about. And I feel like integrity is something that you and I are both pretty big on, and that we've got something to share on. Also. And I would say you for sure as someone who I experience as having incredible integrity. And I also want to say that I can really relax with people who are in integrity. Because I know, like, it's not just about knowing that you have really good boundaries and that you're always going to be clear and upfront, although that's a part of it. But it's also something like there's no game playing energy in this, and manipulation energy going on in this field that is you. And so it
just feels so good.
Yeah, so it just also comes to me that the integrity, that's a part of integrity also. This lack of game playing. I know you know yourself so deeply that you are not going to project your shit on me, and if you are, you're going to tell me.
Yeah, I'll eventually know that that's happening.
And as soon as you figure it out, you're going to tell me,
and
you're going to give me the whole story. Like, yeah, and so I can relax with that. And my little bit about integrity seems to be coming now. Like, I find that that's number one in terms of who I'm relating to, especially in relationships, especially when there's sexual energy involved, because sexual energy just makes it all so much more volatile, so much more potent. There's so much more packed behind the woundings once sexual energy is in there. And I've grown to be more and more aware of that. So I don't fuck around with just anybody. I don't share sexual energy with just anybody. Like, personally, I need to feel that quality of integrity, that I can trust this person knows themselves enough, or is interested in knowing themselves enough, that they are not playing games with me, and they're not sharing something with me and having other unclear things happening in different directions that are taking them out of integrity. I'm very, very, very clear about that, and it's taken me a while to get so clear about that. But I do that because of self-care more than anything. I do that because now I know myself very well. I know what serves me, what doesn't serve me. And so what I've gotten to is that in terms of looking for someone or being open to someone to intimately relate to, whether it's a friend, but especially if it's any kind of sexual relationship, is this quality of integrity. And the last thing I'm going to say about this is, like, we're at a time where, like, in the yogic, the Vedic understanding, we're in the Kali Yuga. We're in this epoch of time where ego and the dark forces, or whatever you want to call them, are full power. And so, like, the bullshit, the stories, the manipulation, it's so easy to fall into that at this point in time. And so more than ever, I feel this call for integrity is so strong and so deep. And so I'd love to hear your take on integrity, both with yourself and in relationships.
Yeah, I love what you're saying about it. My take on integrity. One thing I just want to say is trust yourself. I think that's important for people to hear that. And this is challenging, right? The more intimate we become with ourselves, the more we can trust ourselves. The more time we spend in deep intimacy, deep awareness with ourselves, the more we can trust that we know what's going on. And so from that place, then I think in relationship, trusting yourself when something feels off. And we're both both people in a relationship, it's a dance into higher awareness. So we're going to be, we may call it out of integrity, like when we are in our shadows, when we are in manipulation, when we are, and sometimes we are there unconsciously, we're out of integrity. Let me feel into this for a second though. Yeah, I had an experience more recently where like I could feel that something was off in a relationship. I could feel it, but I wasn't quite trusting myself. And I was going more into, well, maybe something's off in me. Maybe I'm not picking up the right energies. Maybe these are my wounding. And, you know, there was actually just truth inside of me wanted me to listen to what it was feeling. And so I learned from that to trust myself even deeper. And what else would I say about integrity? For me, integrity is, it's very, very much intertwined with my devotion to truth. Like to operate from the space that is most real in myself. And to try to show up as that person with others. Like what's most true. I don't know if that's even, I know this is kind of like, yeah, that's what, I guess that's just what how I would describe integrity to me.
Yeah. And how do you, especially when you went into it, when you're saying like, trust yourself. And then I think if you trust yourself, you can feel into a kind of a certain kind of resonance of like, oh, that feels about right. Yeah, when I said that, that felt like that was coming from that felt true when I said it. I know that resonance. And then if you know that in yourself, when you're relating to someone else, you can kind of sense on that level, can't you? And so when you can kind of like sense, and you can see a bit more of like, oh, okay, they're looking around a bit like they're not totally there. Yeah. You know, I know it's a work in progress, and I'm glad that you shared your personal story, because there's also these parts of us who want to, maybe just want something and so much that you kind of overlook the slightly being off, and I definitely guilty of that, and you know, I have a lot of compassion for that part of me as well, that can ignore the truth a little bit because of the strength of my yearning. But I would say that as this sense of like deep trust in self gets more and more enhanced and tangible, then it gets to the point where you can only attract someone who's got that same resonance. Like it's the only option. Like you simply are just a match for each other. And yeah, for me, it's been part of it is like been learning to discern to a point, like learning about myself or what my needs are, and realizing that my needs is to have a sense of like clarity and authenticity and honesty at all times for my self-care, so I don't go into big mental, emotional fuck up loops all the time, but I actually need to relate to someone who's really dedicated to be showing up in a very, very truthful way. So I think it's like self-care, and it's also self-respect.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, I love everything you're saying. I was going to say something and I kind of forgot it. So,
Actually, so we've got a few people watching, and we wonder if you've got any questions for us. So if you do have any questions for us, you are so welcome to ask. And you just need to go to the chat box. It's on the right side of your screen. And yeah, there's a little chat box there, and it's going to come up if you have a question for us. As far as I know, do you want to pass me that over?
Yeah, sure. Oh yeah, I remember what I was going to say.
Please go for it. Well, yeah.
It's kind of fun. It's like it's talking about it's getting a little psychic-y, like talking about, but that's actually what's happening is like what you were saying, when you're in resonance with yourself, you learn to be able to, what I would call is like read the field. You can read the energetics in yourself and in other people. And or at least this is how I do it. And so I can read resonance, like I can read frequency. Is this tone in alignment, or is there a frequency that's off? And so what happens, this is actually, we're all reading this type of information all the time. And this is what can happen when like you get into a loop with a partner and you're like, wait, but something's off. And they're saying, no, nothing's off, but you can feel that something's off. And sometimes people are not conscious that something is actually off, but you're reading, you're like, there's something off here. There's something out of integrity. This happens all the time. And it doesn't come from any, like the mind analyzing it just kind of makes it more confusing. But what happens is our systems are reading the field and reading is truth resonates as truth. And what is outside of truth resonates as it's not quite true. And we know that. We all know that. So it's just like taking ownership of that in yourself, learning how to read really with your body out of the mind, just in the system, and then trusting that like, and I think men are too. I don't know if it's a man-woman thing, but people like you and I, we're so tuned into like subtle energies. Like I could feel a little bit of dissonance just right there in this one little word, perhaps.
Yeah. It's like, something there like doesn't
right
feel
there.
right. Something like, around that was not flowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, like these are conversation in a conscious relationship. If both people are committed to being in truth, like with like real true desire to be in truth, then these are the types of conversations we want to have. Like I know I want my partner to call me out when I'm not in truth. Yeah. And actually, it's a turn on when he does.
Oh, it's so hot. Yeah.
It's a turn on.
Yeah, it's like, whoa, yep. Oh, you got my number.
You got, because you're deeply seen. You're deeply seen. You're like, oh, you see me. You even see that.
Yeah. And you love. I think it's also an art, you know. Obviously, like if they're like, and you, it's a little bit different. But when it's like, I see you, like, and my love, it totally does this to me, and like, it's beautiful. It's like, okay, you really like.
You're tuned into me.
Yeah,
that's intimacy.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. You're calling me out on a way that I could be bigger. I could be more surrendered.
I could be more true.
Yeah, and you're clear enough to be able to see that, and you have enough care to be able to want for me to be bigger and to evolve beyond that limitation. And that seems to be what it is. It's a bit of it's a limitation. It's a holding. Or a way that energy is getting distorted out into a different direction, into distraction. So there's different kind of dissonances, but I love what you're saying. It's so true. It's like getting more and more able to detect the frequency of things. And that's like totally a work, and it just evolves and it evolves.
And then it's a gift. I mean, it's a gift, but again, you're going to attract someone in who's probably at a very similar level of being able to do that as you. And so then them calling you out as a gift too. It is like, it has to be done in the right way. Where we get where we get a little stuck is when we call people out from a triggered space. So that's not that conversation is not going to work. But if we can, from like embodiment, say like, here's what I'm feeling and here's where I'm at, you know.
And out of service to the other person. Because
I don't love you, not because you're doing something wrong, but because like I'm feeling this, and let's get curious about it together.
Yeah, let's get curious about it. Yeah, and like I sense you're blocking your magnificent. Like you don't have to say that, but in a way, in essence, it is that you're blocking.
Right.
You could be a bit bigger in that direction. Yes. You know, if you release this one, or if you're, you know, I see that your energy is going that way, and like, in this way, conscious relationship is friggin' amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, because we're actually like fine tuning each other and showing each other the blind spots, and then lovingly showing. And this is where it's also a really important part of it, where it's with ourselves, being compassionate to our own blind spots and our own ways that we're not fully showing up, and also with our partners. It's so
that's the beauty of it. That's like really some beautiful stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like gold. And I think I put somewhere in the advertising for this that I was saying, like, how can we fine tune our own system to the more a frequency of truth? And I think we're really addressing that here. I think we're really addressing that here. It's like we're this self-study and this self-love, and we just become more and more sensitive to what's really going on, and then less identified with things the way that they should be, and then having more space to be like, hey, like, you know, having that exploration with another human being. And
Mm-hmm.
then we're like just the most amazing accomplices for each other. We're helping each other evolve. And then we get to, like share that space. So in that way, like, I do understand why people do yearn for the conscious relationship thing. It's because actually, like, this is the work that we're here to do.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So good.
We got one message. You girls look fab. I love the vibe. Hello from Rome. Hello, Francesca. I honestly wish I could feel that way. I'm just getting to know myself at 34 years old. Well, it's never too late. 34 is not too late.
Perfect time.
Yeah, it's actually really a perfect time. And also, like, completely trusting like life's timings in terms of that. Like, 34 is a great time to start really exploring yourself. And I have no doubt that every experience that you had up until now, Francesca, was like the perfect experience that you needed to have at that time, and all contributed to you being where you are right now with the kind of receptivity you're at right now. So
totally.
So that's great. Yeah, and just keeping that enthusiasm and alive.
Commitment, devotion.
Commitment and devotion. Yeah. So anyway, we're opening up to if anyone else wants to comment or send a question. We're just going into our last few minutes of the call. Is there anything that else you'd like to address or add?
I don't know. What else do we want to talk about?
Well, I feel like we talked about radical self-responsibility, and I feel like we've also really been talking about showing up fully. I think that these themes of kind of like intermingling with all of this stuff, like we're learning to be more fully in our experience and then show up more fully in our expression, and then to bring that into every relationship in our lives.
And that is what.
And that's why we need to be a love warrior, because it's like, I mean, this is why I called it the Love Warrior series, because like that takes a serious dedication to love and to truth to keep on showing up in that way.
Oh yeah.
So it's a warrior's job. It's really, really is.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's so beautiful though.
Yeah, it is. It's so beautiful.
So beautiful.
It is, and it's so important to have sisters and brothers who are like on that same trip. And I'd say, like, even if you have one, that's probably enough, but you need at least one, like someone who you can really like share this journey with and share your innermost experience. And that's really super, super important part of it as well.
And you attract those people in the same way you attract a partner that way in. It's you be it. You be it, and you trust, and you be it, and you trust, and you be it, and you trust, you be that person. You be that person. And then, like, it took me a while to manifest like community that mirrors me at the depth and like love and presence that my community now does, my tribe. It took a little while, so just keep being be that person, and everything will show up mirroring just that back to you.
Absolutely. And if there's periods of time that you have to walk in the desert, like you've got to walk in the desert, and that's like where there's nothing, and find what there is for you. It's like also a really like potent part of it as well. Like I found like I've definitely had periods of walking in the and definitely a process of evolution that's like so beyond what my mind could understand, really evolved out of that. And so exactly as Shelly's saying, like, be that person, keep on owning your feelings, expressing humbly what your experience is, like from that unarmored undefended place of like, this is what my experience is and this is what I wish for. You know, especially in relationships, like, you know, like, this is what I feel and this is what I wish for. Just like,
we all want the same thing.
We all want the same things. And so on that note, I'm going to start closing the space. So everyone who's watching now, we're like so happy that you joined us.
Thank you.
So happy that you enjoyed it, that you joined us, and also to the people who watch this later on. We really like sending you so much love. Thank you for sharing the presence with us and like hearing our gifts of expression. And so there's links for us and our work in the box underneath this video. And Shelly, would you like to say something about things that you're offering? Is there anything that you'd like to speak about?
Yeah, you can go onto my website. I offer a free ebook called How to Become the Most Attractive Version of Yourself. And this is really about how to be in self-resonance. So if you want to go onto my website, shellybullard.com, and you can pick up that. I also have other courses, one course about manifesting love, another about manifesting abundance, and a couple other courses coming out. And yeah, I'm just always offering and studying this path of intimacy, of relationships, of truth. So yeah, I'm happy for you to join my tribe as well and join me on this exploration.
Beautiful. Yeah, and so you can go if you would want to work with me one-on-one, like I'm available for that. Also going to be doing live events in Europe this summer, and coming to Perth, Western Australia. I've never been there, even though I grew up in Australia. Coming there next Thursday and Friday, I think. So if you know anyone who's there, I'm doing a intimacy workshop and also a feminine tantra workshop, and then I'm going to be in England this year. And yeah, I also do online programs. I've got a Yoni Wake Up Call program. So it's like a 28-day journey from vaginal numbness to sexual empowerment. And so you can find the links below, Sonja Shradha Devi or the Yoni Wake Up Call. And also if you wanted to see more videos like this, you can go to Conscious and Sexy TV, and all those links are under there. And we'd just love to have you communicating with us and connecting. And yeah, I'd love to hear about your experience of like walking this path of conscious relationship. And we're seriously blessing your path of conscious relationship with yourself and with everybody else, knowing that like you are a complete gift for showing
bowing
up.
Down to that.
Bowing down to that. Your courage as a love warrior as we are doing important work on earth right now. Okay, lots of love to you all. Mwah.
Thank you.